stop your Bella. Great. The next station is Bray. This is the last stop. Please mind the gap.
So, you know the way I always like to start off with a question, particularly a question that you guys aren't anticipating.
Yes.
Well, I have one for you now.
Is it a starter for 10 or?
It's a starter for 10. Do either of you know what a wyvern is? And where is Bray's wyvern?
Yeah.
I know that. Do you know that?
We'd have to resign if we didn't.
So this is an existential question then.
Yeah. And he's outside the old town hall.
Correct.
The town hall.
Correct.
But that's not the original, I believe. I believe the original is up in the yard somewhere, and that's just a copy. Now, that could be untrue or it could be true. I
is
do
that
not
right?
know.
That's
yes.
Interesting.
So we're here.
Yes,
interesting.
Yes,
yeah.
I have heard that too. That seems to be a thing that the council did years ago. They took anything that was original and brought it up to their yard.
Well, we should explain for the listeners, I think. It's a mythological creature whose upper half is a dragon and whose lower half is a serpent or viper. It possesses 2 legs, 2 wings and a barbed tail. Sounds like a lovely pet, doesn't it?
It actually is a lovely statue. If you look at it, it's quite beautiful. And I'm glad to think that we have a wyvern, you know, as a symbol in Bray. It gives us a kind of magical feel, doesn't it? What's the statue in your town? Well, it's certainly not of a patron, it's of a wyvern.
And then there's photographs of back in the day when they used to have religious processions going up through the main street.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be everybody carrying the umbrellas, the canopies, etc., and they'd have to cover the wyvern. That was covered up
with a sheet.
A sheet, you know, in case.
Because the devil, we didn't want the devil there. Well, and it was, we should say it was erected as part, it's actually part of the Brabazon family's crest. Yeah. And that's so, it was erected as part of the building of the town hall, I gather. And that was in 1881. So now you know. And there's a cleverly named band in Bray called Wyvern Lingo. And they are excellent. So look them up on Spotify.
We will.
After you've listened to this episode of Bray Talking Heads. Welcome again. So hello again, it's Mark,
Pat,
and Leah.
Now last time round we said we'd find out what the difference between a standard sauna or a conventional sauna and an infrared sauna is. So Pat, what is the difference?
The difference is, well, the primary difference is the heat delivery method, okay? So a traditional sauna heats the air with high temperatures, you know, mostly creating steam, while the infrared sauna uses radiant heat from infrared lamps to warm the body directly at lower ambient temperatures. So this makes the sauna more comfortable, the infrared sauna more comfortable if you're, sensitive to high heat, while the traditional one can give you a kind of more intense classic experience, requires more energy to operate. So it has a sort of like a higher price tag for the energy, I suppose.
But wouldn't the traditional one be better for your nose and your nasal passages and everything because you've got all the steam and you'd be breathing that than just warm air?
Yeah.
Makes sense,
I don't know, but...
Yeah.
Well, at least you have that option now in Bray, don't you?
Yeah, you have that option. The first sauna I ever took is the one many moons ago where I walked in late at night to a sauna in Bray. And the steam was everywhere. I took off the clothes, as you do, and as the steam cleared, I heard an Italian voice, and it was none other than Tony Moscone. I had taken the clothes off in the chip shop.
I bet you were barred, were you?
You know what? It was the first time, and probably not the last time, I was barred from a premises on the Crinsborougugh Road.
Would you have been for a few drinks beforehand?
It could have been. Now, there was, back in those days, Leah, do you remember the Basha burgers? They were like burgers.
I never ate a Basha
and there was,
burger.
and some say you could bite into them if you didn't look. Let's call it rare. You know, it might be rarely done.
Let's move swiftly along, shall we? Okay. And a little bit later, we're going to hear from a charismatic coffee shop owner who's hanging up her apron and is off to enjoy her retirement. And we'll also, taking our cues from our listeners, we're going to delve a little bit into Naylor's Cove, which was a huge attraction for swimmers and divers in the Bray of yesteryear. But speaking of the Bray of yesteryear, football. Yes.
Oh, here we go.
I can hear groans from these two. But anyway.
Leah, we'll have to contain our excitement.
One of my favourite preoccupations. You've both heard of Manchester United, surely. Okay. Have you heard of the Busby Babes?
Yes.
Very good.
I've heard of Legs and Co and Pants People.
No.
No, I've heard of the Busby Babes. They were a team. I think some of them were killed in a car crash, or not a car crash, a plane crash at some stage. Would I be right in saying that?
That's absolutely correct. The Munich air disaster was 1958, and there were several of them killed and injured in that, which was dreadful, obviously. But 5 years earlier, that Manchester United youth team played in Bray.
So they were that team when they were younger?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were the youth team, yeah. So, interesting thing is, I've done a little mini documentary about that particular match, which is available to listen to if you want to just click onto our show notes here. It's on SoundCloud. And we're going to hear a few clips from it now, just by way of recalling that particular event. The actual game was the initiative of a larger-than-life Bray man, and I'm fascinated by, there are some kind of echoes here with Dargan and people like that who we mentioned last week, in that the vision of one person can get so many things done. It's incredible. This guy, Mick Donegan, he was a barman, would you believe, in the Royal Hotel, had a business head, a business mind, and he was instrumental in taking over the running of Bray Wanderers at the time. He changed their fortunes by taking over the lease of the Carlisle grounds from CIE, and then he ran carnivals and things on the actual ground to raise funds, which was really quite clever. And then somehow or other, nobody really knows how, he managed to get the ear of Sir Matt Busby and get Manchester United in an off-season game with a Bray Wanderers Rathfarnham selection to play in Bray. And that match happened in 1953, and the last remaining player alive from that Bray Rathfarnham team, is the goalkeeper Shay Ryan, who is he's now 95 years of age.
Congratulations, Shay.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to hear how many times he had to pick the ball out of the net, aren't we?
Well, there's a little bit of that, all right.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's have a listen to Shay.
They had sent out the team because they had won the youth league so quickly, and they sent them on a summer tour. Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. They beat a team 24-0 in Wales. It's a record today. They beat everybody they met by double figures.
Shay had been closely following the progress of this up-and-coming Manchester United youth team and their summer tour, and was looking forward to playing against them. He remembers when the United players arrived at the Carlisle grounds, they didn't think much of the facilities.
They came to Bray and they decided that the pavilion that we used to change in, they thought it was a cowshed. So they went over to the National Hotel to change.
I can just see it now, the Busby Babes having changed in the International Hotel, jogging across the Queensborough Road in their football boots to play in the Carlisle grounds. Imagine any of today's Manchester United superstars agreeing to do that.
You had a centre forward called Eddie Lewis. You had an outside left called Eddie Coleman. You had a centre half and a full back, Jeff Bent and Dennis Violet. Wilf McGuinness became a senior member of the United backroom team for years, and there was Noel McFarlane playing at the same time. There was two from Ireland at that time. Bill Whelan had only gone, and Tommy Hamilton was playing that day, and he spent 4 or 5 seasons with them.
It was a very young side that turned up in Bray that evening.
Writer and broadcaster Colm Keane.
But if you think about it and if you hear the names, I mean, it really gives me a chill even saying it now. I mean, you had Duncan Edwards at left half. Now, Duncan Edwards, according to Bobby Charlton, was the greatest player that he ever saw. And that includes people like Pelé and Messi and Beckenbauer, all of those. He really admired him. Eddie Coleman was there. He was playing at right half. And he again was one of the great players who went on to the first team. You had Gordon Clayton. He was playing in goal. He happened to be a friend, actually, of Duncan Edwards. They were all kids, these guys.
So, with a star-studded lineup and a capacity crowd at the Carlisle grounds, the game kicked off at 7:30 to much anticipation.
It took about 35 minutes for Manchester United to score their first goal. They were also way on top, and it was quite clear that they were going to win the game anyway. Then they started rolling the goals in. And you can always tell, really, how a match has gone by who was the man of the match, especially when the man of the match is the goalkeeper for the losing side. And Shay Ryan was in goal for Bray that night. He was a great veteran of that club and a terrific goalkeeper. I think he must have made 1,937 saves against the Busby Babes. I mean, he was in action all night.
Shay Ryan may have been the player of the match for the Bray Wanderers Rathfarnham selection, but the undisputed standout player of the game was the aforementioned Duncan Edwards.
I can see it still. He took a free kick on the half moon in front of the penalty area. He ran down to the ball and he hit it. And it passed me by elongated. It was travelling that fast. It hit the back stanching on the goal and went back to where he was standing before he could even move. He was brilliant.
So it really was a great display of football from these young lads who turned it on, showed off what they could do, and gave great entertainment to the crowd.
So there you go. That was on the 19th of May, 1953.
It's a packed stadium, I'd say.
Yeah, well, you can imagine. Imagine the
But
buzz in
isn't that
Bray.
fantastic? The buzz in Bray must have been
Must
amazing.
have been great, yeah.
Amazing.
And
yeah.
I often think that if Bray were to play Manchester United today, I think Bray, my money be on Bray, actually.
Yeah.
The way they're playing at the moment. But listen, I just want to thank Shay as well, Shay Ryan and his son John, for helping me set up that interview as well.
Isn't it lovely that he was named man of the match?
Yeah.
Isn't it
I
great?
think that's fantastic.
Great,
He
yeah,
must
yeah.
have been a superb goalkeeper.
Obviously, I probably the anticipation was that Bray was going to be defeated, but they held their heads so high and prevented so many other extra goals going in.
Well, now the score is disputed.
Okay, what was the score?
Nobody seems to know what the score was, right?
Did you run out of paper to write down on the score?
Well, Colm did tell me that it was 6-0 to the Busby Babes. But that's disputed. Like, I've heard 9-2, 8-2, somebody else told me. So if anyone's got any memory of what the score was, please let us know.
You know, they did keep their heads, and it was because of that goalkeeper, Shay. So, as I said earlier, congratulations.
And people might know Shay used to work in Heaton's. You know,
yes,
so
that's
when
right.
Heaton's were down on the Castle Street, Shay was behind the counter and very helpful. Always smartly dressed. Always remember Shay with that blazer and, you know, he had the film star look, I think. back in
Dapper.
the day.
I think
Dapper is the thing.
Great
Yeah.
voice as well. He sang in the church. He's a great singer. So, hi, Shay. Hope you're doing well. And other person to mention as well who helped me out there was award-winning broadcaster and writer Colm Keane and his wife Una O'Hagan. They helped me with the documentary. And Colm was quite ill, as you can probably hear in his voice there. When I spoke with him, that was in 2021, and he sadly passed away the following year. So let's move on, shall we, to a subject that seems to be very dear to the hearts or close to the hearts of our listeners, because during our recent survey, this came up several times. Naylor's Cove. It's the cove that exists at where? How would you describe where it is, Leah? It's kind of just at the foot of Bray Head, really, isn't it?
It's at the foot of Bray Head, but you have to kind of go slightly around Bray Head if you're swimming to get to it, or kayaking, and if you're walking you have to go up the hill a bit, and the path divides and you go to the left-hand side.
Yes, yeah.
But did either of you swim there?
I did.
Oh, years ago,
In the
yeah,
70s.
of course, yeah.
I was young in the 70s and I remember going in and it had been packed. Now, we have a photograph we'll put up, you'll see it. You know, there was a white painted concrete changing facilities. You know, there were 2 stories, I think, on one side, and they kind of went at an angle each side of the cove. And then you had maybe 3, let's call them outdoor swimming pools, where the tide come in, fill them up.
One of them was known as the Crab Pond.
Okay.
That was the tiny one, and everybody used to call it the Crab Pond. I don't know why. Did you go in there and look for crabs if you were small? Not sure. Right, but maybe somebody has the answer to that. Then the middle one was less challenging than the bigger one. The bigger one was where the serious people swam and dived.
Yeah, I remember the diving board.
Yes.
Now, There was a swimming club there, wasn't there?
There was, yeah, for years and years and years. But one of the most fascinating things about that is that at one stage, the diving board there was used for Olympic champions.
That's
I
right.
think that was in the 30s at some stage. So that's what I regard it was, held in at the time. And it was an awful shame that it went downhill and downhill. Now, part of it, of course, was erosion. But they could have built a bank or some sort of a seawall further out and saved it. Do you remember this at changing rooms?
Oh, I do, of course, yeah.
They were basic, to say the least.
Certainly were.
Right?
We just be kind and say there used to be a whiff sometimes in them.
A huge whiff in certain ones, I can tell you now. Yeah. And so I don't think these days the people would put up with that because they were freezing cold and they were made of concrete, and you went into this tiny little concrete cube, which was really uncomfortable because the floor in it was always wet. So you were standing in a wet floor of cold water while you changed. It was a delight, really.
But it didn't really matter in, say, 1958 when they had the big swimming galas on. The competitions.
And they were amazing. I remember a gala up there, and all the roofs were packed with people sitting on them, as well as down the steps, and every single spot in the Cove was actually just packed with people. And they were a real competition. I mean, people were swimming. They swam freestyle, they swam butterfly, they swam backwards. It's not backwards, but the backstroke. If they were swimming backwards, it would have been a bit of a shock. But it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. And people came out to swim in that, which is, true. But you did mention that there was a couple of buildings, and I don't know if you ever noticed, but the ladies' changing room was the 2-story one, so you couldn't climb on top of it, right? The men's one was a 1-story one, and the men could climb on top of it and sunbathe. But I think when they put those up in the 30s, it wasn't proper for ladies to sunbathe, so that's why they gave us a 2-story one. But one of the reasons that they did that, and I know, this sounds ridiculous, but one of the reasons that the Cove was even thought of, right? Up to that, men used to bathe without any bathing togs on.
Nude.
And
a bit like Pat going to Mosconi's there.
Nude.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was getting to the stage where they were too close to the women and children on the beaches, right? And then ladies started to use the Cove, so it was figured we better do something.
There was a proposal at one stage recently that it be reopened, rejuvenated, and that it be declared a nude swimming area and bathing area. Quite seriously now, right?
Yeah.
But shot down in flames, that was that idea.
I can just imagine it being shot down in flames.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the cost of trying to repair that place. It ended up there saying that they'll let it go back to its natural beauty. Well, they'll have to take all the concrete out of it if they want to do that.
Back in the day, there was actually a railway platform at Fiddler's Bridge. Okay, and the people it was a stop.
So they could disembark?
You could disembark there.
Just to get to the Cove.
That was 1906,
Didn't know
for example.
That. Wow,
now,
that's interesting.
And then you went up, and where the Bagatelle bench is now, or the seat, that was called the Grand Marine Park, would you believe, at one time. Okay, so what goes on comes on. But you were saying about the nudist swimmers. There was a letter in the Freeman's Journal about the same thing. The letter was signed by a person called Modest, and he goes bathing
Mr. Modest.
Bathing at Bray. Letter to the editor. Sir, the hot weather we now enjoy naturally increases the number of bathers. At Bray, for instance, the public pathway around the head goes within 50 to 60 yards of the men's bathing place. The bathers are unclothed, and all day long, women of every age and degree are passing backwards and forwards along the path. And then he goes on to talk about Killiney, that they do it there too. And that,
they would do it in Killiney,
wouldn't
do
it now in Killiney.
You can see it.
If you look out at the dart, you can see them on one particular.
And then, but anyway,
outcrop.
that's the letter to paper. But at one time in Bray, when they even had the beach in Bray, there was a flagpole in the middle, just down from Finby's on the beach, a flagpole, and there was a no man's land of 150 yards each side of the flagpole. because men were on one side.
And women
I don't know
were on
whether
the
they were
other.
all
For God's
naked or
sake.
other.
I mean-
And women were 150 yards up from the flagpole on the far side.
Yeah, it's also
Decency
daft.
was taken very seriously.
So you
Daft, isn't it?
had the Bray Cove, okay, the baths. But then there was another one.
Oh yes, there was the municipal baths, which were started up at where Finby's is now, right?
There was a structure there.
Yeah. It was used as well. And again, there was a charge in, but there was kind of a bit of a competition between the two of them.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think the municipal baths lasted for very long, if memory serves me correctly, but perhaps one of our listeners could let us know. I think it was only about 10 to 12 years.
That was the women's or the ladies' baths, it was known as too. And then you had two swimming clubs, which was the Bray Cove Swimming Club, rivals, and the Bray Swimming Club. So they would have competed in all those galas against each other.
But getting back to the Cove, is there any way? I mean, you think it'll be hugely costly to do something like that?
I think so. I think if I won the Euro Millions, I would do it. I would do that, and I would resurrect the Opera House at Woodbrook. There's
Whoa.
the two things that I would do.
Wow, okay. And the only other similar type sea-type bathing that exists in these parts anyway is the one in Black Rock, you know, by the dart station.
Yes,
Black
yeah,
Rock,
yeah.
So,
And there used to be one in Dundee.
did there really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we used to go to that when we were, teenagers, just for a change of scene. Now, you didn't do it very often because you didn't have the clippings of tin, do you know that way? So it was a nice surprise if you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, but then the erosion mark is on the news again because of Irish Rail.
In relation to the Cliff
In
Walk.
relation to the whole railway and the Cliff Walk.
Well, the Cliff, they're
And
doing
the
their work,
Cove.
but they're working on the Cliff Walk at the moment. The Iarnród Éireann are, they're actually, putting up the cladding or whatever it's called to stop the rock falls, but there's no work being done above that where the Cliff Walk actually is. So
Yeah, because the council did get a preliminary report, 14 pages. Now, that presents an initial understanding with the,
much did it
follow-on
cost?
to follow, follow-on inspections to follow. So it's like the preface of a book. So this tells you, we had an initial look, had a good photograph of it, but now there's going to have to be another look at it.
that's ridiculous.
And how much did that preliminary report cost, please?
Right?
Because
so much a page.
didn't the Greystones people already do a report? And they did a voluntary one, didn't they?
Let's do a report.
The gate is open,
yeah.
though, isn't it?
The gate is open, I believe, yeah.
Oh, wow, because
Yeah.
I haven't been up. I must have a look.
I think it's kind of
Must have
you
a
enter
look.
at your own risk sort of thing,
By the way, the new interchange at the railway station has opened officially. It does look very nice. It's a nice public plaza. The buses can pull in.
Oh, you mean outside
Yeah.
the station?
Doesn't
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
by the way, because I heard people giving out to me there the other day. They were saying, mention this in your show. Like the buses pull in, but they're not in sync with the railway. People thought that was the
Oh,
idea,
sure.
that the train would pull in and the buses
come on,
would wait.
what? Do you want everything?
Yeah, hang on, there, guys. So,
Like they are in every other country in
yeah,
Europe.
so, but it does look very, very nice.
But how good is nice when the bus doesn't come in and you just got off the dart and you're exhausted after working and it's lashing rain and that wind is whipping up from the sea and you're waiting 20 minutes for a bus that doesn't turn up.
Valid,
any more
valid
good
point.
news?
Valid point. Shall we move on? Shall we move on? Okay, so Liz Anne Molloy. We all know who Liz Anne Molloy is. I think everybody in Bray probably knows.
Best
that.
omelettes.
Best omelettes. There you go.
Well, for the new Brayites, we better explain where it is.
You explain.
Okay, the main street, everybody knows where the main street is. And the new centre, okay, or if you're up there at Dewberry Brooks, just look across the road and down a few shops and the white building there, the doors are open. That's Liz Anne's Café.
Part of the Molloy dynasty, though, isn't she? Like her father,
Yeah.
Jim Molloy, had Molloys on
She
the
is part
Quinsborough
of
Road.
the Molloy dynasty.
Yeah. And her mother was involved as well, and her brother's involved.
Yeah.
And I have to say now, I will say this, she's great. And they're all great. They're really, really good.
Oh, lovely people.
Good people, aren't
Lovely people.
and she's made the decision to retire.
Yeah.
After
She announced that she was going to retire, stepping back. There was an outpouring of people on social media saying, oh no, Liz Anne, the friendliness, your service, what's going to happen? So I hightailed it up to the shop with recorder in hand to meet Liz Anne and her mother, Angela.
It's been wonderful, and I want to thank everybody who has supported me, my family, my parents who started the business 52 years ago. Well, my dad, he came up and he fell in love with Bray. And in our house at home, it was the business and the people of Bray. That was the most important thing, and that was what was discussed at the table.
There was never a day, I'd say, that Jim especially didn't love coming into work. Never a day. He got up every day to enjoy work. And I think he instilled that in all the family.
There is a lovely little story. Mum was in hospital having my brother Martin, who has his own coffee shop in Carrickmines, and Dad came in and he said, "Darling, you're wonderful. A lovely son you've produced." And his name is Martin, as we all know, Martin Molloy. And Dad said, "Well, you know what, love? I've just bought you a little coffee shop in the main street of Bray." Well, my mother nearly had another baby on the spot. And 52 years later, hard work. Initially he started off on Queensborough Road. Isn't that right? In 1961, Mum and Dad.
1961 we started in Bray. That's the year we got married, and we started in Queensborough Road to the bakery. And then we progressed up here to Main Street.
Yes.
Here we are today.
And Dad, Queensborough Road was a great business road in those days, but the place to be was the main street. And he was always dying to get up to the main street. So originally, this was a chemist owned by Patricia and Pat McCartan. And then Dad bought that and then changed it into coffee shop cum bake shop. Then upstairs he did restauranting. And through the years then he went to America. He saw how delis were going and takeaway coffees, and he was always ahead of his time. And then we changed it into more takeaway and sit down quick, as opposed to, being served. And when Dad was retiring, Mum and Dad were retiring, I then took over here then as Liz Anne's, and that was nearly 30 years ago. 30 years. Yeah. And guys, I have loved serving each and every one of you, and I'm going to miss you all dearly. But I'll be coming up and down the town. I'd sit in and I'll have coffee with you. Please God.
Now, people say, I see some posts already about when you announced that you were going to hang up the apron, that people were saying, both you and Patrick in the shops, renowned for the customer service, the way you know everybody, the maitre d', you know who's coming in, know everybody by name. Angela, do you think that's going to dry out now?
I hope not. I would hope not, because that is the way to really and truly to relate to your customers. They're really your friends. Really, over the years, they become your friends, and the customer has to be looked after, and that's what we've always maintained all through the years. And Liz Anne especially has done that. And the boys are the same too. We're all the same. It was through Jim, really, that we all sort of said, the customer's there and the customer has to be looked after.
The cafe is still going, so I have sold it to the people who are next door to me, and they are taking it, but they're not taking my name. So Liz Anne's is going, and now they're going to run it. They're going to keep it the same, changing the name, and Mel is staying on, which is wonderful, who is the best girl, knows everybody, knows what people want. So thankfully they're keeping Mel, and maybe do a little bit of changing, but they see what we do, what works, what's the chemistry, and why would you change something when,
Well, it's not broken, don't change it. It's as simple as that.
So what's your reflection on the main street as you look back?
As I look back, when I started working with Mum and Dad as a young girl, I was in doing the dishes always on a Saturday, because Saturday in Main Street, Bray, was like an event. It was like nearly going to Grafton Street. Everybody came down the town. It was so busy. Then through the years, of course, the way business goes, things changed. The main streets suffered, places were closing, shopping centres were opening, and fortunately enough, the seafront has had a great rejuvenation, and the poor old main street was suffering. But now it's coming back, 100%. The main street is starting to become alive again, and the centre has really helped, getting pennies, Sports Direct. We have Butlers, which is a different, that we're complementary to one another because they're a different genre of business, and you can see it's coming alive again, thank God.
Obviously it's very busy here, running the whole show, being here. Will you have loads of time on your hands now?
I will. I'm just going to put the pause button on. Now, for me, the biggest part is I'm going to miss the people. Just adore everybody. That's the biggest part. But it's time just to kind of have a little bit of time to myself. And as people say, oh, Liz, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And actually, for the moment, I'm actually going to do nothing and just relax. And I'm looking forward to that. Now, I do play a bit of golf, which I love, and swim, but I just want to relax. And then I actually would like to come into Bray and have coffee with people and sit down and be able to, instead of jumping and leaping and serving, it'd be lovely to be able to sit down and have coffee with my customers now and meet people for coffee. That's the bit I'm looking forward to. As somebody said, what is your plan? And I said, at the moment, my plan is no plan.
So, Angela, you're, if you don't mind me saying, looking very healthy.
Thank you.
And, obviously you keep fit.
Yeah, well, I try to walk every day anyway.
So what tips would you give Liz Anne?
I'm just Elizabeth Anne, enjoy herself. Take me time, you've earned it. That's all I can say. And she's at the age now where she can enjoy her retirement, and she's well enough to enjoy it. And that's the time to retire, be able to enjoy it. No point in retiring when you feel you can't do anything. She's a whole new world opening up to her now, which is fantastic after all the years in business. So I'd say it'd be no bother to her, I think. Yeah. And we're just all so glad and so grateful for everything that's happened to us since 1961. Yeah. Bray has been very, very good to all of us, and that's all we can say. And thank you.
I just want to say one thing, a huge thank you to everybody for supporting us through the... Now I'm going to get emotional.
Don't get emotional.
Just a huge thank you to everybody. It's been brilliant.
Oh, that was a lovely interview, wasn't
Isn't that
it?
lovely?
Absolutely
it really is.
lovely, mother
and you know
and daughter.
What? I think if the Molloys could bottle that customer service ethos that they have, it would be worth a fortune. It really would. I mean, they're just brilliant at it. Brilliant.
That family, Jim Molloy, his business ethos, his dedication to customer service. Patrick, who runs the Molloys on the Quinsborough Road there. That shop, if you just look at those shops, look at Patrick's shop, how lovely it's painted on the outside and everything. Yeah. Now, the shops could do a lick of paint in places, but they keep their shops. And there was a bakery behind that shop at one time. When we did the interview upstairs in Liz Anne's, the big poster on the wall was "Hello, darling," and it's her phrase. It's her phrase.
It's her phrase.
Now, we won't have time in the program, but I did interview a few customers, and they were saying everything we were saying here about the customer service, the one-to-one that you felt, when you went into the shop. They appreciated your business. I suppose that's the way that you look at it.
Yeah.
We do really have to say, because I was asking Angela about Jim. Jim only passed in February of the year. And they were together for so many years, and they were so big in the Bray musicals. They were always in it.
Bray Musical Society.
Bray Musical Society. I did ask Angela, had Liz any talent as a singer? She said no, she was a better actress, okay? But she makes a very valid point, Leah, about, you retire when you're fit and healthy. And Angela said this to me. Why do people want to work onto the last degree, while they can barely get going with a business or with anything? Why not enjoy those healthy years that you have?
Yeah, to retire, because if you think about it, work takes up an awful lot of space in our lives.
Oh, completely.
Too much space, to be honest with you. And I actually think most of us probably don't need to work a 5-day week, because I'd say half the time you're looking at your screen wondering what the hell is happening.
Yeah, I think that's changing.
Whatever.
It is changing a little bit, though, the whole work thing. But I'm back to the customer service thing. You just can't buy that. You just can't buy it.
No, absolutely
So
not.
fair play to the Molloys, and good luck to Liz Anne. Before we go, I just want to say, if you've enjoyed this episode and you're enjoying Bray Talking Heads, tell a friend. Tell a friend to listen, because we want to enlarge our listenership base and let more and more people know about this wonderful town that we live in.
I just looked at the stats for how many people live in this wonderful town. It's only increased since the last census over a decade. 900 and something people, 2.8%.
What?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
So, you think of all the Greystones, it's at 22%.
Well, that's probably because of that new development down on the marine development.
Oh, there's been so many.
Oh no, there's a huge number of developments around Greystones. Greystones has substantially changed. But I remember talking to a town clerk here many, many years ago, and he said Bray was in the fortunate position that it could only go so far.
Yes,
right?
Geographically locked.
So he said it's very fortunate. You'll never become too big for your boots.
Yeah, it won't become a borough like Dunleary.
Okay. Well, on
If
that,
we were as rich as Dunleary, I wouldn't mind,
Yeah.
right? Because they get an awful lot more done.
We could build on Bray Head.
You can't build on Brayhead and don't even talk about
lads,
it.
will you stop? Right.
Okay.
Before we start building, I don't know, Trump Tower on Bray Head,
Well, there's the thing.
let's say our goodbyes, okay? So goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And finally, goodbye from me, and I'm off to enjoy an omelette in Liz Anne's.
Before she closes.
I'll be up there myself.
You've been listening to Bray Talking Heads, stories from a seaside town. To contact the show, email braytalkingheads@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky @Bray Talking Heads. Bray Talking Heads. History, stories, opinions and conversations. A podcast for Brayites everywhere.